All right, welcome back to another edition of Sling Paint Gaming. I am Berto, and we're doing another list review. This is actually one of my lists that I just ran in a store championship and made top 4. Probably third place overall from a points perspective, but it was a list that I wanted to take because, you know, with all the Wave 11 ships, with a lot of people which I think was going to fly them, which they were. But with all the low agility, I wanted to be able to take advantage of the low agility. So this is not a list that I've created. I seen somebody else win a store championship, but there's actually an exact list about a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it's called some people call it Snap Crack A's, but all it is, it's 5 green Squadron A wings. Yeah, 5 green Squadron A wings, all PS3, right? With Crackshot, Snapshot, Sardian Refit, and A-Wing Test Pilot. That's it. 5 A-Wings, and I was able to get top 4. I missed the final table by 1 hull versus a Dengar Nim list. I had 1 hull left on Captain Nim, the scum ship Nim, on left versus 1 A-Wing, and I could not seal the deal, but I'll get into that in a sec here. But just like any little list review, we're going to break the list down. I'm going to kind of talk to you about what it's got. I'm also going to show you kind of what I'm not going to go into tweaks because it's my list, and I probably wouldn't want to tweak anything because I kind of like the way it worked. It actually worked very well for what I was trying to accomplish. And what I also liked about, we'll also talk about how I flied it, and like kind of what fly against it. I don't know, maybe I should tell you my secrets, but I will also talk about the strengths and weaknesses and also kind of tying it back to current meta and what have you. All right, so the whole concept of this list, let me bring this right up here. Let me just switch to view. The whole concept of this list is that, one is simplicity, okay? So this is my thinking and my thought on these 5 A-Wings. My first thought was, okay, well, you're going to probably see a lot of Skirk bombers. You're going to probably see a lot of Aztec gunships in the mix. And there was a lot of talks about a lot of different lists with Captain Nim and Dengar. Also, there was a 4-ship Rebel list that had an Aztec gunship, Biggs. I think it was also Jess. And I forget what one other ship, I believe. I forget what the 4 ships were. But long story short, with the current Wave 11 meta that just came out, I wanted to be able to kind of, fight against that. And if you guys remember, the biggest thing with this whole game of X-Wing, it's rock, paper, scissors, okay? If you bring a rock, right, there's always a weakness to a list. If you bring a rock, all right, it's always going to get covered by a paper. But rock can damage scissors. If you bring a pair of scissors, you can cut paper, but it's going to be damaged by rocks. So keep that in mind when you talk about store championships and what the meta is going to be. Now, don't try to, keep things simple, right? But just the biggest thing is understand your strengths and weaknesses that you're going to see. So going into the store championship this past weekend, over at your local game store, and I was in Pineville, North Carolina, like I said, I think it was going to be a lot of Wave 11 ships that had a lot of low agility, all right? So I'm like, well, I think the Snapshot is going to work. I think Crackshot is going to work. I think these 5 A-Wings, it's going to be like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that's what it actually did, and actually worked out very well. So let me first go into the list here, break it down. All right, so the breakdown is, it's 5 green Squadron pilots, A-Wings, all right, all PS3, which was very important that they're all PS3, because if any of the ships like Jump Masters or the Skirk bombers, if people were running triple Skirk bombers, the PS3 one, I was still able to do simultaneous fire and still shoot with my A-Wing, so they couldn't PS kill me. That was the one problem that I had with a lot of the, if I was flying T-70s like the Blue Squadrons, or if I was flying the Bomber, the Warden Squadrons, they're able to PS kill me and I couldn't get a return shot. So having a PS3 was really good. I like that. Now, when you look at it, you're like, 2 agility. What? Are you crazy, Berto? 2 agility. I'm sorry, not 2. I'm sorry, 2 primary attack and 3 agility, 2 hull, 2 shield. These ships are lightweight. They could potentially be one-shotted. And you know what? Yes, absolutely they could be potentially one-shotted. But I'll tell you how I played this list and actually how it made me very successul. But before I go into that, Let me talk about the list. So it has crack shot. It says when attacking a ship inside, you're firing. At the start of the compare results step, you may discard this card to cancel one of your defender's evade results. Not only does a defender, cancel one defender's evade results, but it mind tricks a lot of people. Like if they have a focus token, right? And let's say they're rolling a run of 1 agility ship, right? And all of a sudden they go, okay, I'm going to spend my, wait, I don't know if I want to spend my focus token because you're probably going to crack shot me. And I'm like, more likely, maybe, yeah. Depends on what you're going to do here, right? You know, they might spend the focus token. They might not spend the focus token. Now, why they even think that, I would try to get a crack shot off the board. If I can get a crack shot off the board, that helps me. And then most of the times they don't even wind up using the focus token to return fire or whatever the case may be. So, but again, it was playing mind games with it. And for 1 point, EPT slot, gotta love it. The Sardian Refit, this card has a negative squad points. Basically, it's -2, so it allows you to fit 5 of these bad boys in this list here. Snapshot. This is the key to this list. After an enemy ship executes a maneuver, yes, a maneuver, not in combat, a maneuver, you may perform this attack against that ship. One ship, you cannot not modify your attack dice again that phase, and only during the activation phase, not combat phase, just activation phase. So basically, you can only attack once. Now it is a range 1, and it is only 2 dice for 2 points. Now you're like, why would you want to do that? But it's rollable luck. Now if I'm rolling 2 dice, and they got low agility ships, more than likely, I might get, it's a 50-50 shot with the dice. I might get roll lucky, and it's a coin toss. I get one hit showing on the board. If they're rolling 1 agility, it's actually odds are in my favor from a dice perspective because you only have 3 evades on the dice. Now, they're moving before they even get tokens. Okay, now, if they have a tiny mind link, that's a whole different story. They might get tokens up before they even move or all that stuff, but that's a whole different thing. But keep that in mind. As soon as they do a maneuver, it's not after they get the actions. As soon as they actually execute a maneuver, so before they boost, before they barrel roll, before they evade, focus, whatever other action they want to take, snapshot kicks in. And again, it's only 1 ship. You can do this once per round per ship. So you usually have to rotate your card or flip your card or something like that just to show that during that round you already used a snapshot for that particular ship. So that is key. And on top of the A-Wing test pilot, that gives you those 2 elite slots. So the cool part about it is I can have crack shot, I can have snapshot, and it's awesome. Now the snapshot, the cool part about snapshot is most of the time I'm using crack shot during my snapshot. Right? So if they did roll an evade, I crack shot to guarantee at least 1 hull through. Now if I have 5 ships doing that, okay, and if I do wind up getting my ships all in range 1, or maybe 3 of them or 4 of them, whatever it is, that's tax that I'm shooting at a tokenless ship, basically. And whatever goes through, and that just hurts them. And then on top of it, I get to shoot my primary weapon during the actual combat phase. So technically speaking, that is almost 10 attacks that I could potentially do. Think about the math of that. So that was the whole thing of this. Now, getting back to the stat line, so PS3, 2 primary, 3 agility, 2 hull, 2 shields, focus, target lock, boost, and an evade action. That evade action was essential most of the time for me. This whole thing, as far as tweaks, I like the simplicity of this list. I like that all ships could do the same exact thing. I like that I can leverage the boost when I need to boost for a setup for a block where I think I know the enemy ship's going to go, and then set up the 1 block for one of my ships with one of my ships, and then the 4 other ships are shooting snapshot, and then their primary weapon right after that on a tokenless ship because they bumped my ship. Snapshot got fired off, so they couldn't get any tokens to begin with because it's right after execute maneuver, and then I was able to do a primary attack on a tokenless ship. Believe me, it's insane when you think about it. Now, how do you actually go about flying this bad boy? So when I first was thinking about this, I don't think there's any videos of actually these A-Wings like this flying. There may be 1 or 2 out there, but I couldn't find any. But I was doing some Vassal. If you guys don't use Vassal for even online matches and you don't want to play it, and we do have a Vassal tutorial. If you guys look in our channel, we have a Vassal tutorial. But even if you don't use it for online for playing, use it for openings. learn your openings, learn rock placement, and see where your ships will go based on different openings. Now, what I did as far as these openings was I set up my ships in a way that I actually I was able to. I basically what I did was actually I think I have a picture of it. Let me bring this up here. Let's bring up a picture because actually that would probably be worth 1,000 words here. Let's open this up. Okay, so this is some of the. Do I have a picture of my opening? Ah, here we go. Here's an opening. So this was actually the top 4. This is the Dengar Nim build that I was facing that I lost by 1 hull. But if you see my ships and how I set them up, I set them up a little bit different every turn depending on where the rock placement was and depending on where my lanes are. All right. Sometimes I set up these the 3 ships on the outer left of this rock, and sometimes on the inner or on the inner, depending just basically depending on rock placement. And the whole reason why I double stack them like this instead of laying them flat is because when you turn in, if you do a hard turn, especially with the 1 hard turn that these ships have, all right, you are basically now both ships are potentially in arc, because when he turns in, because now I didn't know where he was going to set up his ships. I didn't know if he was going to set them up sideways, straight way, or coming right at me, or whatever the case would be. I like setting up my ships like this because when I turn in, so if I do a bank, I'm still slanted. But if I go in another bank, or if I just do a hard turn right off the straight maneuver, that allows me basically to have both ships basically perpendicular to my opponent's ship. Basically, which enforces, helps with the snapshot, it helps with blocking, and it also helps with basically from the combat phase for both of my ships. The 3rd ship I usually kept it down here in the back here, on either side. I might put it on this side, on the right side for the other 2 ships on the right, or I might put it on the left. It really just mattered on rock placement. And if you see the 3rd rock over here, I wanted to put it on this side so where I had a little bit more freedom with this 3rd ship. This 3rd ship is usually sometimes my blocker, what I would call it, okay? This is basically allowing me to either bump myself to block those K-turns or Talon rolls or barrel rolls or whatever, but allowing to maximize my damage. So that was the key thing with flying this. And again, sometimes I would line the left ships or the right ships on the outer side of the 2 and 2 rocks here that would put. This instance, because I had the 2 straight lanes in here, I kept them, I wanted to line them up. Now, keep in mind this. The whole purpose of these ships, they love to fly fast, okay? And keep that in mind when you're flying this list. A lot of people might do it because now they don't have a 1-speed maneuver. They have a 2 straight. Some people do 2 straight to see what their opponent's doing, this and that. I didn't even give my opponent a chance to think. I had these guys all doing 5s right off the bat. Each one of my games, they're all doing 5s. If I had my ships on the outside, they were doing 5 and a boost bank 1 in, and then following up with a 3 turn in or another 5 straight to catch the ships. The whole purpose was to basically create a kill area. I didn't want to keep these ships too close to each other because I didn't want to get arc dodged or barrel rolled. I wanted to kind of create like a spread. And the whole purpose of that spread was, again, to maximize the snapshots and also to maximize my blocking. That was the key to all of this. So I either would have ships line on the outside, do 5 straights and boost 1 in, right? And then do 5 straights again. And it would be like towards the middle of the board here, right where the backside of that Death Star. And they would still be lining up here. And these other 2 ships would come straight in. And when they start curling in right here, let's say if they curl in the middle section, I created basically almost a perpendicular firing or kill box with my ships that allowed the block maneuvers, that allowed the block Talon rolls, that allowed me to do a whole bunch of different mess for my opponent. So the cool part about it is, getting back to the list here. Actually, let me actually leave this here. If you look at the the dial of a green squadron, look at the dial. It's all straight green maneuvers. It's got hards 1, 2, and 3, and it's got basically no 1-speed maneuver straight or no 1 banks. It does have the 3 Talon roll and the 5 Talon roll, so it gave me a lot of options for blocking. It gave me a lot of options for falling behind ships and still keeping them. Like if I wanted to do a 3 Talon roll, because let's say I was right up against small base ship, I can do a 3 Talon roll, bump my first ship behind me so it blocks their maneuver in front of me, and then do the ship in front of that ship to do a Talon roll behind it. So I have basically 2 ships pointing at each other with a 3 space between each other, and the ship, my enemy's ship, is right in the middle of it being sandwiched. And the cool part about it is if he bumps my one ship, right, my back ship gets a snapshot. If he bumps my other ship, let's say, or if he turns out a little bit, I have, because I created that T, I have the other ships coming from the bottom. Again, some from the side and some from the bottom. I was able to block and create a huge nest of mess of where all these snapshots would fire off. I would try to get at least a couple snapshots for every turn. And for the initial engagement, I may lose a ship, right? Just because if he does focus fire. But if I was able to set it up right and zoom in as fast as I can and get into position and get in position where the rocks are and leverage the rocks and leverage the bump. I love bumping. If you guys ever tried this, try bumping yourself, okay? If you see an opportunity to block a ship, because if you're, let's say you're staring down, let's say he's probably a range 1 or 2 away from you, right? Your opponent, and he's got one ship he's facing you, and you have back-to-back ships or close back-to-back ship, depending on how you set up. Try bumping yourself. If you bump yourself, okay, with the back ship, right, you're only moving like a hair, maybe like a half of a 1 template up, right? Yes, you do lose your actions, but when you bump yourself, you're potentially blocking your opponent from either doing a K turn behind you or Talon roll, or whatever the case, depending on where the positions are. And then you let your other ship in front of that ship do the Talon roll. Basically, you're creating that kill box. And the cool part about it is that front initial ship, if it did survive a barrage, well, next turn, it's usually out of arc because it's behind your opponent's ship. Now, if they have a turret ship, that's a whole different story and all that stuff. But again, and you got to play with it and practice it. But that's what I did, with most of my day was I'm zooming in. This bottom right ship basically was what I called my bump ship, because when the bottom left red ship and the right ship right there, if you guys can see my mouse here moving, these 2 bottom ships, when they made a right-hand turn, this ship on the left here can bump this ship and block and create a kill box. So it really depends on which ships they're shooting at, but it's so much fun to block and mess with your opponent with that. So the biggest thing with this is fly fast. The other thing is evade up. Take your evade actions for the initial engagement. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to take a focus token, this and that. Go with the guaranteed evade. Okay, if you're rolling 3 dice, okay, naturally, and if it's range 3, rolling 4 dice, depending if they have munitions or not. If you're rolling 3 dice, right, statistically, you should get at least 1 evade. Okay, you should roll at least 1 evade. And then if you have an evade token, that's at least guaranteed 2 evades. If they're shooting a 4 dice attack and it's like, their stats are pretty high to getting it, 2 shots might get through. Most of the time, I was losing shields off 1 ship on an initial engagement, but I still had 2 hull left. And he's like, well, what happens if they're shooting, at the same ship and they can all focus fire? Yes, I may lose 1 A-wing in my initial engagement, but because they're PS3s, right, and if I'm fighting against Skirgs or Jump Masters, this and that, I can still shoot back. Yes, that's important, right, because simultaneous fire kicks in, and I can still shoot back. So even if the ship is dead, I can still send my last barrage of shots. Now, everybody's like, well, if you're rolling only 2 a dice, right, and if you have no modifiers whatsoever, you may get 1 hit, and they could probably block it. But yes, but when you have 5 ships shooting at an opponent, guarantee you they're going to go through their tokens a lot faster for each shot, on top of snapshot shooting in the activation phase. So again, it was like death by like paper cuts. So that's how you fly against it. Now, is this list beatable? Absolutely, just like every list. Again, rock, paper, scissors, right? What's susceptible to this list is the alpha strikes. Like with this list actually I faced in the top 4, Dengar Nim. Both Dengar Nim was able to take 1 A-wing, the blue A-wing actually right here, off the board right off the initial engagement. But with that initial engagement, Dengar was hurting really bad. Okay? And then the next following turn, I was able to take the Dengar off the board with all my snapshots. That's how powerful this list is. Then I had 4 A-Wings against a healthy Captain Nim. Now, Captain Nim on this list had Auto Blaster turret with accuracy corrector, title, and bomblet generator, which was a pain in the butt. So I couldn't get close to my Captain Nim because with the snapshots, I had to sacrifice 1 or 2 ships to get close with the snapshots to fire off, knowing that he can accuracy correct me and auto blast me, so I couldn't even invade anything. So the whole concept of this list was I got Nim down to 1 list, sacrificing some of my ships. It was 1-on-1. I had a poor roll. I couldn't even roll 1 hit against his 1 agility ship there, and he had some lucky 1 evades here and there. I couldn't get that last hit through in the lost hull, and he got a bomblet generator off on me, and it was either the bomblet generator was going to go off and take me out, or I was going to get a shot on his ship with a focus token. And the bomblet generator got the 1 hit. So it was a coin toss sending it through. But either way, right, this was an amazing list. So what did I face throughout the day? Well, ironically, the first list that I played against, where is it? Nope, that's my 3rd game. I think okay, this was the first list. You really can't see it. I mean, I can't. Can I rotate it? There we go. This was the first list. It was actually, I believe it was Inquisitor, Quick Draw, and Vader was the actually ships that I had. I was able to botch up and take away a lot of the actions and not let him focus fire, and snapshots on a tokenless Vader was able to go through. Again, I had like 2 or 3 ships shooting snapshot of Vader, and again, green dice are never always gonna roll up evades. And I was able to break up his focus fire, and that was my first game. So I lost 1 A-Wing in that. So going into the first round, I was already up 100 to and I only lost 20 points, which was 1 A-Wing. And I was able to basically concentrate a lot of my fire and focus fire on all his ships with snapshot and my regular primary weapon. Now, the interesting thing going into the second game, I was played another Imperial list. So this Imperial list, I believe, was Vessery, Quick Draw, and I think it was Omega Leader was the last ship, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Quick Draw, Vessery, yeah, and Omega Leader. So the interesting thing here is you can see the last ship that I had left that I had to kill, and I still had 4 A-Wings. And you can see that 2 of my A-Wings lost to shields, right? And I still had 2 fully healthy A-Wings. And I was able to zoom in because those A-Wings got that 5 speed. I was able to get into position. Even him shooting out the rear arc, I didn't care. All my ships evaded and took evade actions. I was able to get, and take out Quick Draw as well. So that was another. I think I lost 1 ship in the last thing that had no hull when he was shooting out the back. So I think it was like I was 100 points to 40. So I was able to win that victory. Then the actual 3rd round, I was actually going against. You can see this is the list here. It was Biggs, Jess, I believe. I'm sorry, no, Biggs, Lowrick in the Aztec gunship, and then Captain Nim. Now, my first thought when I was playing against this list, and you can see I had my 4 A-Wings still on the board, I was able to zoom in so fast to get to Biggs and able to position myself with a snapshot with Biggs. I was shooting at a tokenless Biggs, even with low Rick ability and trying to shift tokens around and selflessness and all that weird stuff. I was able to just put so much damage on Biggs and then primary attack on Biggs, and then I was able to take low Rick right after that. And then Nim was, even though he had bomblet generator on Nim, I was able to position myself with my other ships to just get snapshots off like crazy. He didn't have the accuracy corrector like in the Final Four list that I was playing against AJ. But this, I was able to wipe that off. So going into the 4th round, I had basically 3 wins, and I had great MOV. And then on the 4th round, it was 4 rounds and cut. On the 4th round, the other person that was 3-0, we looked at the stats working with the judge, the TO, and I said, let's final salvo because I think we're both in. He looked at it. He's like, okay, I'm fine with final salvoing. And we final salvoed And no matter what we did point-wise, we were actually ahead of the bunch going into the 4th round. I lost the final salvo. I was slinging 10 dice. He was slinging 11. He had Low Rick, Jess, Biggs, and Captain Rex. That was the other one. Captain Rex was the list. So then going into, so that made us go into the top 4, and in the top 4 is where I faced the Captain Nim and Dengar combination and lost by 1 hole. And I found out that this list actually, after my game here, actually winded up playing the one I final salvoed against. And actually, this list actually won, and a lot of it was because of that bomblet generator and accuracy corrector. But getting into this, a lot of, again, the A-Wings, this is mostly about the A-Wings. The A-Wings was just a nasty outfit for these low agility ships, and even high agility ships that had, some, but taking snapshots at them, rolling at least one or maybe, one hit or one crit, and then able to get that through, and then crack shot that, any evades that they, crack shot one evade that they rolled through just to get that hit through. Again, it was just, the combination was just nasty. And like I said, I was able to take Dengar off the board in 2 rounds. One ship I didn't let shoot at Dengar. I shot at Captain Nim on the first engagement because he was in arc, and I let the other ships shoot because he was out of Dengar's arc. And he still shot at, he returned fired retaliation at the blue. That's why the blue got destroyed, the blue fighter. But it was worth it because I was able to get shots on Dengar, and then I was able to position myself because the way I came in, that we are right here where that top of that debris is where the action was pretty much the initial action. He couldn't get behind me, and was the only position where he can go was kind of to the right here, and I kind of anticipated that, and I was able to snapshot him and then to death with Dengar, which was awesome. But anyway, so how do you fly against these A-Wings? They're brittle, okay? If they don't token up the evade, I think that was key for me, was to use the evade token as much as I can to block as much hits as I can. These things, like when we say snap, crackle, pop, they can go pop very easily because they only 2 hull and 2 shields. And if you get a crit, if you get a crit through it at the double damage, that ship's gone right then, there and then. And that actually happened to me with one of my ships. I forget it was the second game where the guy got a crit through, and it was a double damage, and he only had 2 hull left anyway. So he was dead. So. It's it's a very this 5 A-Wings is a very beatable list, but I love everything about this list because one, it aligns with my synergies as far as flying low agility ships and a lot of them, and using my blocking. I love blocking opponents. I love where I can take away actions from them. It makes me happy. But anyway, this is the snap crack list. If you guys, I call it the Cinco Verde list because it's 5 green squadrons. And again, they're all PS3s, but their dial is awesome. I love their abilities. I love the crack shot and the snapshot combination, where you shoot at a tokenless ship. It just causes havoc. And a lot of people, especially in our area, don't know how to play against this list, and they don't anticipate the speed of which the engagement of these A-Wings can produce. I mean, if you're doing a 5 and then you're doing a boost after that, you're almost doing a 7. Right off the bat. And if you do that twice, you're going to be right in their face, range 1, and they're not going to even anticipate that. And if you get into range 1 with that and all the snapshots fire off, even if you took all the evade actions and you're only rolling 2 dice, and if you're in range 1, you'll be rolling 3 dice for your primary attack, unless they barrel roll out or boost out. But because you create this area kill box, it makes them hard to do that. You can actually cause a lot of havoc. It's awesome list. All right, so what do you guys think of this list? Definitely leave it in the comments below. What do you guys would tweak? How would you guys fly it? How would you guys fly against it? Definitely leave in the comments below. Again, this is a list I just took. I was able to get top 4. I think I'm going to play this list a little bit more. I actually enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun to play, and it surprised a lot of people. A lot of people like 5 A-Wings. When I first got there was like 1 or 2 people they were like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. Nice." And then all other people were like, 5 A-Wings, that's it? 5 A. I'm like, well, we'll see how that works. And I surprised a lot of people when I made the top 4 cut there. All right. So if you guys like this, give it a like below for the video. Also check out all our social media, which are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the links below. Also check out our new Facebook groups. We have Facebook groups for X-Wing, Destiny, Imperial Soul, Armada. The links are below. Also, if you guys want to help support us, Team SPG, where you guys can get some alternate art cards every month. Definitely take a look at that. The link is for Team SPGs below. That helps support us. And also our token shops. My lovely wife makes all those fun tokens, and she makes and she works with Jim, who's one of our artists, and myself, and we put these cool things together and get everything out, and you guys ship it, and it's awesome, and a lot of people love these tokens. Also, check out our t-shirt store as well. Again, all the links are below to our store down below. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up. Definitely let me know what you think about this list. All right, guys.